This is the travel node layout version 1, or maybe it's like version 10, I don't know. It took a lot of effort to get these travel nodes to work. The biggest problem was this lower trench down here. Trying to get it to line up, it took a lot of versions, which you're going to see as this video goes on. It's going to be about 10 minutes. I had it laid out in that trench down there at the bottom right. And I was just moving it slightly. I was trying to not get that middle thing all messed up with all them connections. And then make it work through the trench without it trying to cross land, which it did a couple times. It skims the land. So it was a little bit tricky. I ended up sort of flipping what you see here to the other side in the end. But it works. One of the interesting things was trying to send them over to the trench like you see there. And they wouldn't really go there. You could put ships there and the ships would leave the area. But in order to get ships into the trench, you had to get up real close to it first and then send the ships into it. Which was an interesting version. I thought maybe I'd keep it like that, but then I was like, no, you kind of want to be able to send stuff everywhere without any hassle. So I kept trying. And I couldn't figure out why these dots were so big and why there were so many line connections. Because when you look at the other custom map travel nodes, they don't have all these lines. Then the next thing I was trying to figure out was, why are the AI markers like that? And I couldn't figure that out. I zoom in on it, and you can see that there's just a bunch of red circles, and then the green is like crosses that are all smushed together. And some of them have like 3 circles, and the other ones have 4. And I'm looking at the AI marker image, and it's just dots. So I went into Photoshop and tried to figure out, did I have some strange picture setting that makes them like that? So I have no idea why the AI markers are looking like that. So here's a version of the travel nodes that actually worked for that trench, which was the hardest part. I just started with a square at first and it worked. And then I did that middle piece, that first video clip you saw with all the lines and all the dots in the center. I was trying to just figure out if the nodes in the picture were lining up in the actual game with where I was putting them in the picture, right? So were they being too close to the land, or were they on land, or were they deep in the middle? What was going on? So it's pretty close. It's not one-to-one image to actual gameplay, but it's not very far off. So that's why I went ahead and put them travel nodes down there in that trench in the bottom right. And I had to move them up a little bit or down a little bit and to the side a little bit. All these ships moving around. I'm trying to figure out, up here it's weird because it was going through the island trench up on the top, but then it was going around it. So there's something going on with the map layout and the travel nodes. Not a real big deal. I mean, it's still going where you want it to go. It's just is it going to go through that little trench or not, because if it does, then it's crossing land. And that would look weird in game. So like I said before, I flipped what was one of the original designs and flipped it the other way, because that trench that right above where the numbers are counting down, right where it says launch mode, that node has to come shoot out and connect to something. So I had to put a node all the way out here on the far right for it to connect to. Because when I didn't have it connecting to anything, the game was going there, there's a connection problem. You see that later in some photos at the end, some screenshots. So you can't just have a travel node going out into the middle of nowhere. It'll work, the game will work, and everything about it would work. All the ships travel everywhere, but you gotta have everything connected, which is strange because there's another map that doesn't. I think it's Defcon, where it's just got one going out in the middle of nowhere and it works. So whoever made that map figured it's good enough, which I was almost at the point of doing, because this took forever. This took like a day of just making nodes, launching the game, making nodes, launching the game. But that's the end result right there. I don't even know if I need that one up here on the top right next to the island. That right there. So I got it in working order, or it wasn't doing anything bizarre or not being playable. Figured, well, that's good enough then. I was expecting there to be less of those white lines, but there isn't, so I don't know why that's happening. Or those red and green dots being the way they are. Very strange. My other map wasn't like that. This is my second map. First was the America map. See that? It goes right down into the trench, right where I want it. So that's why it took like another 10 versions of these travel nodes to get that to happen. I don't know if I like the graphics on this. I like the islands. The islands look good. So there you see all the lines connecting. Here you see a border crossing. So I got to go back and adjust the image there. I wasn't sure if I was going to make the right one be top, bottom, or left and right. So I made it for both, but just went ahead and made it top and bottom like the other side. It's the first attempt at getting the graphics. It's with shaded water. I doubled it up to darken it a little bit, see if it'd be better. No real point doing it that way. And then I went and did the coastlines and the borders, and then finally brought over the graphics for the bigger island chunks. So what I did discover, which I knew before, I rediscovered, is once your territory gets hit, it changes. The game goes and blurs everything. It turns to night. Music sort of subtly changes, like that right there. That might be intentional though. I might have made that blue. But that's basically what it does. So it goes from something like that to something darker. As soon as your territory gets hit. See how that island looks? That's a pretty good looking island. I just smudged it. See if I could make the bigger parts look like that. I don't know. It's a pretty good map. The bombers can get around enough and get back to a ship or an air base. It's not too big. I might have to adjust the top and bottom on the right. Sort of break them up a little bit. I don't know yet. I was trying to figure out why that extra line is there. You see right in the middle above the two islands, there's that extra border line. I couldn't find it when I first looked, but it turns out it was just there was like an extra B in one of the .dat files. See, this just ends. It causes that connection problem because the travel node just ends in the middle of nowhere. So this is like the first versions, and then that's touch and land somewhere. Even though it's not showing that it is, it is. That one cross land, that one's touching land. That's crossing land a little bit. Connection problems. So, like I said, I just moved the dot a little bit, moved it a little bit, moved it a little bit, until it finally worked. Right there, boom. That's all it took. So I went and looked at all the images. Try to figure out the bit depth. I was trying to figure out why the lines were like that and why the AI markers were the design they were, the red circles and the green crosses. But I haven't figured that one out yet. Maybe I have to save them as indexes or not save them as indexes or do something to compress them, or maybe it's something with the type of brush I use to make the dots. So I could remake all the dots in maybe MS Paint or something like that. See if it still happens. I don't know. There's the top and bottom. There was the left and right. Those are the travel nodes. Those are the AI markers. Travel nodes, too many of them. Stretching them, trying to make them work, see what happens. Simple travel nodes. You don't see footage of those, I don't think. Those are my first attempts with the squares image travel nodes, just to see if I put more connections. That's the map. I grabbed that off Google search, Google image search for fantasy maps. Stretched it out a little bit there, it looks like. That was a test with the north, south, east, west for the, what was it, water? Because when the map starts to fade, I wanted to see if I could get one thing to fade in and another thing to fade out. But That's not how it works. It's just one image fades, changes color, the water changes color, music changes. You can't make it go from one to another. I think I could say that with 100% certainty. I'm pretty sure I did it to territory 2. Nothing happened. And those are the only images you could really change. Water shaded, water, territory map. So that's all.